Hey, what's up guys, it's Briggs here, and like always, welcome to All Day Anime. Sorry about the wait, I know I've been promising this video for a while now, but today I will finally be counting down everything you need to know and may not have already known about the Lion Sin of Pride, Escanor from the 7 Deadly Sins. This video has been heavily requested, so thank you so much everyone who left a request, and feel free to leave more requests down in the comments below. This video is going to contain spoilers. I won't be covering any major plot points, so don't worry about that, but anything pertaining to Escanor and his abilities is fair game. But without any more delay, let's begin. Escanor is a member of the 7 Deadly Sins and is known as the Lion Sin of Pride, Master of the Sun. Now, the Sin of Pride is usually represented with a horse and the color violet, but Escanor is represented with a lion, and he actually has the largest symbol of his sin in proportion to his size, which is located on his back. The first time we see Escanor's actual appearance is in the special chapters, Vampires of Edinburgh, that took place 12 years prior to the current story. In the last page of the first special chapter, we get to see an accurate version of Escanor, as his wanted picture up until now isn't really a proper depiction of him. And our first actual views of him while reading these chapters is that he's very weak, has no confidence, the opposite of what you would expect out of the Sin of Pride. But then as morning comes around, he begins to transform into this huge, muscular, and more importantly, extremely prideful version of himself. And I'm sure you could all imagine the type of ass-kicking badassery that occurs after said transformation. I will be going into detail about how this ability works shortly. I really hope that they adapt these extra chapters into season 2 of the anime, though I can easily see them skipping it. And in that case, the first time that he is revealed into the main plot is 12 years later when Bon and some other individuals who I will not name accidentally wandered into his cave-side bar while fleeing from an opponent. And of course, his appearance then is older and he ended up growing a mustache. Escanor has made no official appearance in the anime, however in the newest anime release Nanatsu no Taizai Signs of the Holy War OVA episodes, he makes a cameo when the opening theme is playing. Escanor is currently 40 years old, born on July 1st, and he is human although he was born with a rare ability known as Sunshine. Escanor's ability is one of duality. He is the weakest amongst all the Holy Knights at night, but starting from dawn his power level begins to rise steadily from one hour to the next. During one of his fights, his power level was shown increasingly by 5 points with seemingly every second, and was measured at 50,060 while continuing to rise. At his peak, according to Merlin, he easily surpasses any of the other sins. In his battle, he was fighting against an opponent with a power level of 60,000, and he was eventually able to overpower him. And there was still half an hour until noon, so if we assume that he was at a minimum of 60,000 when he defeated his opponent, even though he was probably at more, then with 30 minutes left times 5 points per second, that would bring him to a minimum of 69,000. And I'll go ahead and drop the other power levels of some of the other sins to show how vast his power is in comparison. Now I want to remind you that that's actually a minimum estimate for his peak because the rate of 5 per second probably increases as it gets closer to noon. In daytime, beginning with the rising of the sun, at dawn, Escanor begins to make a dramatic change, both physically and mentally. He grows much taller and muscular, with his clothes being ripped off him unless specifically tailored to his growth. In this state, his physical strength and endurance are incredible, and his immense magic power casually radiates from his body as intense heat, which normally reduces everything around him to ashes. He seems to be able to exert some control over this, being able to prevent friends from being hurt or turning his power up at will to produce intense light and heat capable of even melting stone. In this state, his normally skittish demeanor is replaced by one of confidence and a royal atmosphere. During noon, when his power is at its peak, he becomes a colossal man. And in nighttime, with the setting of the sun, Escanor returns to his original, small and shy self. He's seemingly weaker than an average human, and his power level has been measured at 15. He actually prefers this form and dislikes going out in daytime due to his personality change. Now, with his vast changes in body size, I'm going to have to give ranges for his height and weight. His height ranges from 165 centimeters to 325 centimeters, or in feet 5 foot 5 inches to 10 foot 8 inches, weighing from 49 kilograms to 355 kilograms, or 108 pounds to 785 pounds. And for all you manga fans wondering, his eye color is blue and hair color is orange. Escanor is probably the closest member of the 7 deadly sins that represent their corresponding sin, as his daytime form is the living embodiment of the Sin of Pride, though at night he is the farthest from it, and that's something I love about the 7 deadly sins. They all show traits of their designated sin, though their actions aren't solely controlled by that sin, and quite the opposite, Meliodas actually fights to control his wrath. Eventually, I want to make a video about all the different clans and races that have been revealed and which clan each sin belongs to, and I'll probably add to that video what sin each sin represents and how they show these traits. But yeah, Escanor is a human. He was just born with a special ability. He was born as the Prince of Castellio. He ended up being disowned based on his ability and differences and was an outcast of society. Of course, until he met Merlin and Meliodas. Escanor is actually in love with Merlin. This love stems from her being the first person to not only not be afraid of him or his power, but actively be intrigued by it. In his own words, he never expected her to return his feelings and has accepted that, viewing her as the one to illuminate his path, just like the sun would. Escanor's sacred treasure and weapon of choice is the divine axe Rita, a giant ornamental axe named after a maiden said to be loved by the sun. It is incredibly heavy and most of its weight is concentrated in the head, which makes it very off-balanced, yet during daytime he is able to wield it with one hand. And he has also been shown to wield a large spear which he briefly possessed 10 years ago before the 7 deadly sins were framed for Zarathustra's murder, though it appears to not be as heavy in comparison to his sacred treasure. As you probably already know from my previous videos, many of the 7 deadly sins have been heavily influenced by Arthurian legend, and Escanor is no different. He was based off of Escanor le Grand, who in Arthurian legend had very similar abilities where his strength continued to grow until noon and would then diminish. According to the data book, Escanor's daily routine is napping and writing poetry. His favorite food is meat during the day and vegetables during the night. His charm point is his shyness. The people he respects the most are Merlin and Meliodas as they accepted him and didn't fear him. Escanor has no one he would mind making an enemy of, which shows how proud and conceited he is. His weak point is being super weak at night. His birthplace is Castellio Kingdom. His dream/hope is opening up a store with Merlin. His regrets were being born. That's a little bit dark. What he wants most right now is to be able to control his powers. His favorite animals are cats and lions. And his power level cannot be measured, which is true, although I did try to do a minimum estimate for his peak power level. And that is the end of this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button to let me know. Subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to hit that bell button to make sure that you're notified about my future content. Like I said before, feel free to leave requests on any series or character, and it might just be my next video. In terms of future fact videos pertaining to the 7 deadly sins, you can expect one on Hauser, King Arthur, and Helbram. I want to redo Bond as well, since that was my first fact video on the 7 deadly sins close to 9 months ago, and it was honestly pretty bad because I had just started making fact videos at the time. But yeah, after that I'll eventually get to the 10 commandments as well. Click the annotation on the right to watch some of my older fact videos on the 7 deadly sins, or the annotation on the left to watch my last video on Kirito from Sword Art Online. And just like that, I will see you guys all next time, dudes. Shin, paku.